we are going to be focusing on some fundamentals. I had a customer reach out to me and said, Greg, why am I having lifting? And I want to be able to break this down into 3 variables, right? 1, let me give you a highlight, right? 1, 2, and 3. First is your prep, okay? Your second is going to be your application. All right, application. I can spell today. And then your third is going to be your finishing. Okay, so if all 3 of these are done well, you're not going to have lifting at all. But if your prep is off, chances are your application is going to, again, it's not going to bond really well to the surface. If you've prepped well and your application is okay, meaning you don't know how to get the product on without it running all over the place, or it's too dry, this could be a problem, or you're creating ledges around the perimeter of the nail. And last but not least is finishing. How do you finish the enhancement so that you don't basically spend 20 to 30 minutes jackhammering it into shape? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through all 3 steps. It's good to be back, really excited about all the new products. We're going to be providing a ton of education. Definitely tune in over the next, few weeks leading up to the New Year's. There's going to be a ton of education. It's going to be amazing. Going to be spending a lot of time spending with you guys on this platform showing you. Okay, so here's what I want you to do first. So for those of you guys that are going through the process, we have to remember that we have to begin by pushing back the cuticles, okay? Once we're done pushing back the cuticles, then what we want to be able to do is use our electric file. So for those of you guys that got the electric file, there's a dial. You can see how fast this could go. I'm going to keep it at 3,000 RPMs. That is going to be the speed that you're going to gently remove shine from the surface of the nail. So again, I want to work around the perimeter and then lightly feather away the shine from corner to corner. Again, so you notice I'm working this way. I'm not holding the hand and doing this, right? So this is going to give me the opportunity to use this part of the barrel to lightly feather away the shine from corner to corner. The pressure I'm going to be working with is if I'm working on the inside of my wrist, right? So look, this is a very gentle pressure. This is a very sensitive part of my skin. I want to be able to tickle away the shine, and I don't want to be aggressive, right? We want to be able to feather everything away gently. Once we're doing that, you're going to use swipe. This is the cleanser. And what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to remove all the oils and contaminants from the surface. Now, I'm going to use protein bonds. So for those of you guys that got yourself one of these holders, this is fantastic. This is going to be able to hold it in place so that obviously when I'm working, I don't have to worry about spilling the bottle. I'm going to apply 2 coats from cuticle to free edge. Boom. 1 coat, and then I'm going to do this in all 10 fingers, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to apply a 2nd coat. So this is good prep. This is what we want to be able to do so that you don't have lifting with acrylics, gels, gel polish, pretty much any type of enhancement you're going to be putting on the natural nail. This is what you want to be able to do. Okay, now, here's what we've done. Okay, so prep is done, right? Now what we want to be able to do is we need to get into how to pick up the acrylic. And in order to do that, you have to know how to submerge your brush. And again, you have to know how to bounce in the powder so that you get a nice fluffy bead on one side of the brush. You need it so that when you release it from the brush, it's going to come off without any basically dry spots. You want it to be able to self-level. Remember, The acrylic has to be able to self-level in a way where you have tight ledges around the perimeter of the nail. So if I submerge my brush, right, you don't want to do this. You don't want to take your brush and swirl it and then tap it off both sides and then water ski across the surface. If you do that, you get this really flat, dry, uneven bead on your brush. Also, if you submerge your brush and you jab the product and swirl it like this, what ends up happening is you end up getting product all around. What ends up happening is, look, it's very difficult for me to come off without pulling the acrylic and then getting it again all over my brush. We don't want that type of consistency. We want something that's going to release really easy. So if you submerge your brush and watch, if you pull down into the powder like at like a 45-degree angle and then you bounce inside the powder, you're going to notice that you get this really, really nice bead. So how, right, do we apply that to doing nails? Well, the first thing you're going to learn how to do when you're doing nails is how to overlay. All right, so this is the nail we prepped. So what I usually have my beginner students work on is, again, getting a bead by bouncing in the powder and waiting 1, 2, 3, and then releasing the product from the brush. This is going to give you enough time to walk around the perimeter of the nail while you're holding the product and preventing it from getting down the sides. Notice as it starts to move, it's moving on its own. Everything is self-leveling, right, from this part to this part. And what I mean by this part, the cuticle area all the way to the free edge, is pretty much self-leveled into perfection. I don't have to force it, right? And I feel that a lot of beginners, when they're working, the mistake they make is they do this. Let me just wipe this off so that you guys can see, right? If you were to pick up a bead and let's say you held the finger flat and then you kept your brush flat and then you pushed it to the back just like this, what you've done is you've created a mushroom, basically a mushroom cap, and everything is going to run this way. It's not going to run this way, right? So this is a big problem. That is very difficult to control. What you need to remember is that we're trying to create, like, I'll just draw this out so that you guys can see. But if we were to hold the finger down at an angle, if this was the natural nail, we're trying to build this on the back end. Do you see this? We need, and if this was the cuticle area, we need it tight, not just here. We need it tight all around the whole entire perimeter of the nail. So remember, when you are applying the product, think of it as this, right? Think of it as this. If I had my finger flat and the brush was like, if the brush was at this angle, right? Look at that. Okay, that obviously that's the angle I want. The problem is gravity is going to pull the product this way. What I need to do, I need to come in at this angle, but all I need to do is I need to angle the finger down just like this. See that? And then what that's going to create, that is going to create basically a really, really tight perimeter. So if you have the right consistency and you're able to set it down at the right angle with the finger pointed down towards the towel, watch what happens. If I submerge my brush, right, again, I'm going to pull down, bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. At 4, I'm going to release it really slow, and then I can lightly walk around the perimeter of the nail just touching. I can wipe my brush. Then at this point, if I just want to hold the side of the acrylic as everything is moving down, I'll be able to control that. Once it gets close, I could start feathering it from the front end. Notice, feathering from the front end, right? So what I'm doing is I'm allowing the product to self-level. What it's doing is it's self-leveling tight around the perimeter of the nail. Once it gets down to this point, I could clean my brush, right? And what I'm doing is I'm removing the excess from the perimeter. And then what I could do is I can now hold the shape, right? And what it's done is it's created a beautiful natural overlay from this point to this point. Okay, so the fundamentals of getting the product to move from here to here without you physically having to work it or pull it. So like, don't make the mistake again of doing this. This is a beginner mistake. What they end up doing is they take the brush and it's like they're holding their breath. And they'll hold it on the surface as long as they can. And then what ends up happening is it ends up falling back inside. Then again, the rookie move is to try to go for, I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. And then what you end up with is this asteroid on the end of your nail. We don't want asteroids. So if you submerge your brush again and you pull slightly down and then bounce in the powder, you're going to notice that you get this really fluffy bead. Now watch this. If I just wait 1, 2, 3, 4, and then release, I have a beautiful consistency that I can work around. So it's going to allow me to touch around the perimeter as the product moves this way. As it gets close to the free edge, I can lightly feather from the front end, clean my brush. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it into shape. So that means if there's too much this way, I could physically, look, I could physically kind of, I just want to show you guys the workability. So if I physically kind of push everything back, you see how it forces it to create that upper arch? You have to be aware of that because it's in a consistency where I have to just be very, very light-handed. That is also another thing, right? You'll also notice that when I'm holding my hand, I have it connected. I don't free ball it like this, right? I don't hold my brush from this angle and then slap it down, right? I see a lot of beginners, they think they're supposed to do this. They take their brush, they water ski across the surface, they slap it down, and then they do this, right? That is a disaster. Like, you're never going to do acrylic successfully if you think by just slapping it down and then slapping it forward, right? There's no control of the product, especially when it's in that basically workability. So what we have to do, again, is we have to know how to control the run, right? So the self-leveling nature of the acrylic, which is going to run. Look, you'll notice, this is a perfect example, and I'll demonstrate this on a nail form. If I was to work on a tip or on a nail form, right? Check this out. You see this? If I was to just pick up the product, right? And then again, just go directly to the form. Watch what happens. This is a problem. You start to panic and you're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then your brush is jammed with acrylic. And then you're like, I don't know what to do. So you don't want to be in that position, especially as the winter months start to come and it gets cooler in your salon or it gets cooler in the working environment that you have. Notice the difference. If I submerge my brush and I am able to pull and then bounce inside the powder and get a nice bead and then wait 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, release. Look at that. That is beautiful because what you're able to do is you're able to control the self-leveling nature of the acrylic. And this is really important, especially when you're doing overlays, because as you can see, you're trying to get that super tight. Even though it's moving down, I'll be able to juggle it and move it into place without it sticking to my brush. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, since you all now are gonna master consistency, we're gonna learn to build the free edge. Okay, so I'm gonna take my form. I'm going to place this on the bottom. I'm going to now pre-pinch my form, boom, just like this, okay? I'm gonna open up the back end And then what this is going to do is it's going to create these wings. This is going to allow me to come in, again, at an angle so you can see. If I was to hold this to the side just like this, you see how it's like it comes straight and then it angles down? If I was to use my hand here, this hand, look at this, and just rotate it up, see that? So again, if I get underneath and then I rotate it up just gently, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to end up building a form that's completely straight going out the side just like that. Super tight and flush to the free edge of the nail, okay? Okay, so once I have it tight, flush form, basically tight, flush to the free edge, now what I want to be able to do is get a bead that's not going to run. So when you're working on a form, we need a consistency that's like clay. So how do I achieve that without having to sit there and wait? I'm going to submerge my brush. I'm going to pull, bounce, achieve that without having to sit there and wait. I'm going to submerge my brush. I'm going to pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to take my bead. Notice I don't have acrylic on the back side of my brush. I'm going to set this down. Again, I'm going to drain the liquid from the back end of my brush. I'm keeping it like this. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to set this down. And as you notice when I release, I have a clay-like bead. I'm now going to be able to work from the top of the bead. Notice from the top. I'm walking it from the top. I'm not doing this. I'm not sliding it. I see a lot of beginners do this. They go, oh my gosh. And then they do this. They slide it to the corner. And then they try to fix it. And then what they're left with, it's like this. This is what a lot of beginners do. They're like, oh my gosh, I just built a Y on the end of my nail. And then they have this big, bulgy, nasty looking free edge that's impossible to fix. So you have to remember what we have to do is we have to work from the surface. So what I mean by that, right? Let me just kind of draw this out so I can explain to you. If this was if this was the body of the nail, okay, and this was the nail form, okay, say this is on, and we place the bead right on top of the form, right here, okay. What we have to do is it's almost like we have to walk this. So we have to walk to the side first, and then obviously up towards this part, right, the free edge of the nail. But what you're doing is you're walking it from that top of the bead all the way until it gets to the corner, right? And you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to get, this is your growth channel right here. You have to walk it even with your growth channel, and then from the top section of the bead, this is what you're going to walk up to the corner, okay? So if I have my form, boom, and I go ahead and put, again, I'm going to pre-pinch it. It's going to create a nice little handle, right? Boom, I have wings. I'm going to be able to use those wings, as you can see. I'm going to come underneath. Just like that. And then again, I'm going to use my hand and I'm going to lift it, right, so that it's nice and tight. Perfect. Okay? So what we want to be able to do is we need a consistency that's not going to run. So what are we going to do? We're going to pick it up and we're going to drain our bead before we set it to the surface. So you guys out there that are learning, this is going to help you tremendously. You're going to get back to school this week and you're going to know how to crush this. You're going to submerge your brush. You're going to pull down, bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to get a nice bead on one side of my brush. I'm going to drain the excess from that one side. Now watch, I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to set this down here. Watch how I walk it to the top. I'm going to walk it down the side. I'm going to get it even with the growth channel from the top of the bead. Even with the growth channel from the top of the bead. Even with the growth channel. Perfect. See how it's starting to run? Get it even with the growth channel. Walk it from the top. Even with the growth channel, walk it from the top. Even with the growth channel, walk it to the top until you get it connected. Once you get it connected, then what you'll be able to do, it doesn't matter how it's positioned. Look at this. I can sit here and clean my brush, and I can go back, and I can start to work the acrylic from side to side so that I have a really nice even structure. If I need a little bit of length, I could lightly kind of pull this out. I could really get this to the length of desire, absolutely flush to the nail, boom, just like that, right? So if we're gonna go for the coffin, we'll go with a really, really tight coffin nail. I'm gonna build my tip in the form of a coffin tip, right? So I have it pinched like a stiletto nail, but what I've done is I've squared off the front. For all of you guys that are learning as well, you could get this as tight as you want to the front end, and then what you could do is you could use your brush to square this off. But you can see how I have it even. My growth channels are right here. My sidewalls don't go past it, right? I don't have these big, bulky corners. Everything is nice and smooth, nice and even, okay? So once we are in this position, now what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to use those methods of overlay to create the rest of the nail, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to submerge my brush, okay? I'm going to, again, I need to get a lot of product. So I'm going to pull down, I'm going to bounce, 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 bounce. And what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then release. Now, the workability, I could start working around the perimeter. Look at this. If I press it too hard, I'm just going to hold the side, hold the side, hold the side as it starts working down towards the stress area, and then I can start pulling from the front of the bead, the front of the bead. If it ever gets too close, I could take a wedge, and what I can do is I can come in here. Look at that. See how tight my sidewalls are? Nothing is running. Everything is flowing down towards the tip. You can see from the side profile how I'm creating a beautiful upper arch. And again, what we're trying to do, if I think, you know what, I need to kind of reposition the acrylic back, I could always force, I could use the body of my brush, and I could use this right here to kind of push the acrylic back towards the stress area, and then as it starts to settle, then what I could do is start brushing everything forward. Nothing is going to get away from me, because what I've done is I've set it into a consistency where everything not only self-levels this way, I've got full control of the product coming towards the tip. Now, what we have to do is we have to fill the remaining area in. So if you're looking at the side profile, let me try to get this close so that you guys can see. If you're looking at this from the side, I have to really get it from this point to this point. It's not just this front end. I have good upper arch up to this point. I have to fill this whole area right inside here. So what we're going to do, okay, what we're going to end up doing, again, we need to get a consistency that's not going to get away from us. I'm going to submerge my brush. I'm going to pull down. I'm going to bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm just going to wait. I don't have to attack. If you decide that you want to take a little bit off, you can. In between the bead that I set and the negative space, I'm going to set it down, brush it back, and then what I can do is hold that excess and start to walk. Look at this. This is great. I'm walking it from side to side, walking it from side to side, all the way down to the very end of the nail. And then what that has manage me to do is create a nice, again, complete structure that's going to fill in all the way from side to side. I'm not brushing it forward. I'm holding everything in place. If I decide that I needed to use the tip of my brush and slightly brush back, I would be able to do that as well, right? And that's the advantage of sculpting in, I'd say, multiple beads or starting from the cuticle area, is you're going to be able to finish that top end, that upper arch, and then whatever you have to work down below. So you can see, right? Even though everything is set, I might have just a hair too much at the tip. It's not a problem. You can see the structure, how it's like, again, it's all built out. Again, just that little break, that little break in the acrylic that you see right there, that's nothing. That's all going to file into perfection when I am absolutely finished. But the cuticle area for me is super tight. The free edge is already starting to dry. You can see, take a look at my extension. From the end of the growth channel all the way out, it's perfectly straight. It does not tilt down at an angle. You have razor sharp growth channels So when you're done filing, you're going to have, again, picture perfect nails, right, that look like they belong on the cover of an advertisement or a magazine. They don't even exist anymore. All right, so just notice again, for those of you guys, I use this dish. I keep it inside here. This is a great way for me to keep the monomer in the brush so that it doesn't get stuck or jammed up. For those of you, again, who have a lot of acrylic in your brush, a great way of actually cleaning it is if I take a little bit of acetone with the monomer and I add it, right, again, to clean. So just let that sit. So if you have, again, a clogged brush, don't just soak it in regular acetone. It's going to actually probably end up affecting it. So what I'm going to end up doing is just, I'll keep it here, I'll let it soak, I'll let it rinse out, and that way it's nice and tight. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to wait until this dries. I'm going to show you guys how to file this into perfection. So remember, right, the first step was to be able to do good preparation. The second step, right, you can see the flexibility, right, the free edge is starting to dry. I'm going to be able to come in here and actually pinch in a really, really tight C curve all the way. The temperature in here is quite cool. It's in the mid 60s, so I have to kind of be aware, right? I want to start filing it. You guys are going to finish out all your nails before you're done filing. So if you have a brand new file, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to take the edges of our file down first before we actually start to file. For those of you guys that got the large mystery box, again, you're going to get 12 of the zebra files. These are the bomb. You're going to love them. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to end up keeping contact with my side. I'm going to end up keeping contact with my side. I want to try to build a straight ledge. You see that ledge? All the way from here, all the way down to here. It's the same thing on the opposite side. I want to be able to keep contact all the way through, and then even the very, very front end. How I get my lower arch, this is, when it comes to finishing, the biggest mistake that a lot of beginners make, and this is, again, if we're looking at this from the side profile, if we end up building our nail all the way out just like this, what we don't want is to file a notch right here on the side, okay? You don't want that. And the biggest mistake that a lot of beginners make is they take their hand file and they just start filing into the sides just like this, right? So if you just take your hand file and you just start hacking into the side like this, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up building these notches in the corner that are not going to come straight out. What you have to do to accomplish absolute perfection is by turning the hand to the side. So if we end up turning the hand to the side just like this, you're going to be able to line the file at the lowest point, and then as you file up, what will end up happening is the hand file will end up reaching the very, very corner and build a perfectly straight extension from the end of the growth channel all the way out. So you can see how much that's hanging from this side. So if I start from the lowest point here and I file up and I keep contact and I continue to keep contact all the way through, what will eventually happen is my hand file will reach that corner. As you can see, so I drop my hand file, get a new one. You can see how it's going to reach that corner, and it's going to be able to build perfectly straight extensions that are going to extend from the end of the growth channel all the way out. All right, so let's go ahead and use our electric file to do the remaining filing. I'm going to take the arbor band off. What we're going to end up doing is getting our safety bit. I'm going to keep a little bit of length on the safety bit. Right, I'm going to lock that up. I'm going to end up putting this around 12,000 RPMs. I need to make sure that I'm holding the hand. I need to make sure that I'm holding the hand from the side profile. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to taper the back end. I'm going to start working down through the upper arch all the way to the tip so that I could get great shape there. When I am filing my C-curve, I want to be able to look down the barrel of the nail. I want to be able to file in one direction towards myself. I'm going to do that all the way through. Because you can see, if I'm going in one direction all the way through, the barrel is not going to slip. When you go side to side, the biggest mistake that a lot of beginners make is they hold the hand like this, and then they go side to side, and the barrel ends up spinning around the edges. If you're looking down the barrel this way, what you're going to be able to do is you're not only going to be able to see whether or not you can make it even. I'll show you guys. Whether you can make it even, but you're going to be able to file it perfect from side to side. Hold on, let me just make sure this is tight. All right, and then the cuticle area, we want to be able to work around in one direction. All I'm doing is reducing bulk, and then I'll be able to follow through the rest of the nail. Okay, so you can see I'm not spending a ton of time filing. I'm reducing bulk with my electric file, and what this is going to do is it's going to lead to me taking my hand file. I'm now going to be able to go around the perimeter of the nail, and you can see I don't really have to spend that much time. Look at this. Just gently go around the perimeter. Just gently go around the perimeter. I have zero ledge, meaning my finger is not going to get stuck on the back end. We don't want it to get stuck. We don't want ledges. I'm going to break it into two sections. I'm going to file this way, down the side in one direction. I'm almost coming at this angle. And then this side here, I have contact going up, let the hand file fall. Contact into the nail, let the hand file fall. So we're breaking it into two sections. And then as you can see, let me just bring this straight up. I'll show you guys. Last but not least, we want to be able to look at client profile. We want to be able to look at this profile. So this is where we're going to be able to see whether or not there are imperfections from side to side. We're going to be able to work down the barrel of the nail to make sure that it's completely even. We're going to be able to make sure it's completely straight, right? And this is where, again, you're looking down the barrel so that you can see whether or not it's going to be straight. You don't want it too bulky on both sides of the nail. I have some imperfections there. Again, not a big deal. What we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to come in and just make sure that we end up filing them dead straight, right? All your detail is going to be in the very, very end. Let me pop these back in. All the detail is going to be in the very end. And then you can see, once you're done, you know, if I was to take a sponge to the surface to make sure that it's absolutely smooth from all angles, let's go ahead and wipe this down so that you guys can see what it looks like. All right, okay, so from all angles, we're trying to build a structure, right, that's evenly all the way through this. And so again, even from this point right here, you can see what we're trying to do is file it so that we have perfection all the way down. We want to try to create great upper arch here. We want to be able to create perfect sidewalls that extend all the way to the side from all angles. You want to be able to create a platform that's going to be absolutely smooth and perfect, so that if you're doing gel polish, if you're doing painting, if you're doing any type of artistic work, you have the perfect platform to work on top of. All right, so I wanted to get back online today to do some education. So for those of you guys that are going through the learning process, we'll be able to give you guys all the fundamentals so that you build the right skills so that you are successful in the salon. And for all you do-it-yourselfers out there, yeah, this is a great opportunity for you to learn the trade, even if you just like doing the nails yourself. I'm excited about you guys getting all your stuff. Hopefully you guys had a safe and happy holiday. Looking forward to the rest of the year with you guys. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Appreciate you guys tuning into Nail School. Peace.
Subscribe the channel.